All right, here we start with our interview with Ryan Divish of the Seattle Times. God, I wish we might just have the outtakes before we record this of us trying to figure all the technical issues out, but we've done it. And Ryan Divish joins us right now. Pucksports.com, YouTube. You listen to Amazon, Spotify. Ryan's appearances brought to you by Chalet Bowl. Chalet Bowl, Washington's oldest operating bowling alley, established in 1941. Located in Tacoma's Proctor District, family owned and operated 40 years. The Frederick family and staff specialize in customer service for your bowling, food, and fun experience while at their unique 12-lane facility. Go to chaletbowl.com to make your reservations. How are you this morning?
I'm all right. If you're gonna do outtakes, you got to make sure you have the Condota outtakes, because you should see, like, when we try and do a fantasy football draft with Condota, it is like the most impossible thing. It's like a running joke. His phone doesn't work. His computer doesn't work. I guess when you type so angry and treat the keyboards like they're somebody that's wronged you in life, that your computer stops working. And he's just this is a guy that could tell you the score of every Apple Cup of every game, every Apple Cup and what happened, but he cannot work technology. It is truly terrifying.
So, yeah, I got my first, Ryan and I recording this on Wednesday. I got my first kind of taste of it on Tuesday. So Bob, along with Curtis Crabtree of Fox 13, and then Tim Booth, the Associated Press, who cover everything, Curtis and Bob primarily cover just the Seahawks, and then Tim covers the Seahawks but does a bunch of other stuff with the Associated Press. So they're going to be on my Thursday live NFL draft watch party. And so I just wanted to run it through, do like a dry run with those guys, make sure all the equipment works and that they're comfortable setting up. I did not realize this about Condota, that he struggles so much with
It's amazing.
technology. And this platform, we record on this platform called Riverside. And Riverside is basically just like a broadcast quality Zoom. I mean, it's just Zoom, really. And watching him, trying to get him on was one of the funnier things I think I have experienced, and I was unaware of his challenges with technology. But before he even came on, Curtis and Tim were like, just wait for the Bob experience. And boy, I got it. I got it a lot.
And then the thing is he gets super frustrated when it doesn't work, and then he just mocks himself for being stupid and old. And I don't understand any of this. It's just like, all really Bob wants to do is sit at home and listen to his records with Kiss, and like, he has a huge record collection, so he just wants to sit at home and listen to music and not think about life.
That's fine. I think that's okay. That's okay, just to sit back and about life. But oh god, it was funny, man. I was laughing out loud, just kind of watching it over and over and over again. All right, so let's get into the Mariners. Boy, that game last night there on Tuesday was just that's kind of classic Mariners, was it not? You got they score runs via the long ball. They get terrific starting pitching. I know Gilbert will beat himself up on the walks, and then their bullpen was great. I mean, that's just kind of the recipe for these guys, is it not?
Yeah, I mean, that's Mariners baseball. Hit a bunch of homers early and hang on for a win. I thought maybe Texas would make a little bit of a rally late in the game, but they didn't. I mean, that was as good as I've seen Spire and Munoz. Stanek comes in, gets the one out that he needs. I mean, that's kind of how you dial it up. I mean, and that's how they've won lately. I mean, it was 8-3 over their last 11 games. I think all 8 of the wins have been quality starts. I think they've all been quality starts for the most part, other than Kirby went 5 shutout, but left the game. So yeah, I mean, this is their recipe on how they're going to win. I mean, even with the rebuilt offense or rebuilt lineup, I mean, they're still going to be reliant on the homer, I think.
Yeah, I mean, but you know what? And I'm glad that you brought up the Gabe Spire inning there, that 8th inning. I mean, listen, it's a 4-0 game still, and with the way their offense can move the ball, especially in that park, and what they've done, I mean, he comes up there with the heart of their order. You're talking Simeon and Seager and Carter, and boom, he 1, 2, 3 was good. I thought that was, of all the good things about the game last night, and We'll talk about Gilbert and Julio and then Cal Raleigh. I just thought that was a big moment in the game. It was just really, it's cool to see a guy with that much ink be able to throw the ball.
It's what's crazy is it's like he throws the first pitch pretty much down the middle, and everybody knows it, and a lot of people just aren't even swinging at it. They just watch it go by as if like suddenly this guy that throws a first pitch strike 75% of the time or whatever it is, oh my God, he threw a first pitch strike, and they seem stunned by it. I'm like, I'm up there thinking if it's going to be right down the middle, I probably should swing, but teams haven't done that for some reason.
Well, and it's always, I always feel that this kind of like a trend in baseball. Like I see it all the time. I even see it like at the youth level, like, and I can hear sometimes coaches, all right, let's just like, let's take the first pitch. I don't know if the first pitch is like down the middle, just swing at it.
I mean, like if you look at the
generally going to be the best one.
If you look at like the numbers and the data, the people, the first pitch numbers are usually the production numbers are pretty high. Because like legitimately what it is like if you're a hitter and you're going to swing at the first pitch, it better be right down the dick. Like it better be perfect. And that's usually what the rule is. Like if I'm going to go up there, I'm going to swing at the first pitch. I'm looking for a specific spot. There it is. I'm going to swing. And usually the production numbers are higher. And like for a lot of guys, if the guy's really nasty, has nasty breaking stuff, that might be the best pitch you're going to see in the entire at bat, especially if you don't hit it and they throw it. So they'd rather take a hack at it than maybe giving, than maybe getting behind. I mean, like, and the Mariners aren't afraid to swing at the first pitch. People sit there and think that the control the zone philosophy means you watch a bunch of stuff. No, it's that you don't swing at crap pitches. And I think, honestly, they've been better at that, over the last, whatever, 9 games or whatever. I wrote it in my story, but like since that Frankie Montas start, they've gotten this, and it might even been in the Cup Series, they've gotten the starter out and under before the 5th inning in like 7 or 8 games during the stretch. And that's important. And like I was trying to tell the one guy, it's like, it doesn't matter. The one guy is like, oh yeah, we got the starter out.
Well, who's this? This is a one guy on Twitter.
Yeah. Which one of the stupid people now? So this guy's like, I go, this is like the 5th time or 6th time out of 7 games that they got the starter out before the 5th inning. And this guy goes, yeah, Mitch hits into a double play. That's not the point. The point is getting the starter out, especially like in this series. You get the starter out now. Like you start putting pressure on their bullpen in the first game of a series, and it's a bullpen that's not very good. Then that has ramifications down in the next game. In the next game, they've used a couple guys that may have to make a roster move. Whatever. I mean, they used Leclerc last night in a game that they probably didn't want to have to use him. He's one of their better relievers. So it's like, yeah, that's what it matters. Is like by using a ton of relievers or by forcing them to use relievers early, that has ramifications down the road.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's just. Here's the deal. I mean, everybody knows this, right? I mean, any level, you get the starter out of the game and get into the bullpen. There's a reason they're starters. You know what I mean? They're starters and they're their best pitchers.
And you're not going to see a leverage guy in the 5th or 6th inning. You're not seeing their best guy. And a lot of times, and we've talked about this before, Puck, you cover baseball. You've been around it. Can you before this kind of pitching lab has come in and then the early 2000s, how many games they lost in the 5th or 6th or 7th inning when they bring in some dude throwing 87 from the right side, trying to spin him to death, trying to get to the leverage because their only leverage guy was JJ Putz or like Arthur Rhodes or somebody. Like that's how you lose games, or you don't come back. Like you're down 3-1 and you're in the 6th, your starter comes out and you give up 2 more. Well, then you're not coming back. Or the same thing, if you're up 2-1, your starter comes out, and you give up the lead, or, that's how you lose games. A lot of those games right after the starter comes out of the game, the outcomes are very dictated. And I think that's why they've been so much better. I mean, the success rate, yeah, they get starters that go late. But like the guys like in the past years of Topa and Sewall before he became the closer, those were the guys that locked down those middle innings. And then, that's how they won games.
Yeah. Well, it's been good so far. It really just does feel, and I know we've mentioned it many, many times, but I mean, this offense really will just go the way. it feels like of Julio. And I mean, the stats, they clearly, right, Ryan, they bear it out. I mean, the first 12 games, there's something like 4 games under 500. He's hitting under 200. You know, he's got 0. He's only driven in 3. He's got 1 extra base hit. His OPS was like 477. His last 11 games in which they've gone 5 games over 500, they're 8-3. He's got an average of 364. His OPS is 869, and he's driven in 7 runs. And then last night he hit his first home run, and you wrote in the paper at Seattle Times. I mean, that was a no-doubter. A no-doubt home run there for Julio.
The longest homer of the season. Hardest hit ball, longest homer.
Just crushed it. And then what I love about it, and I noted it today also on the DPD, you know, if you're going to make out with the Trident, let's buy it dinner first, okay? You know, when you grope something, I mean, the Mariners have an HR department. I mean, my God, he molested the thing. But it was awesome. It just, you know, he's such a joy to watch. And it's, I mean, they are so heavily dependent, like most teams with superstar players, so heavily dependent on, I think, him performing. And the rest of the offense kind of falls in line.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, that's the thing is, like, they have to, you know, so much of their lineup is centered around his production and what he does. So if they don't, you know, if he's not there and it's an out, I mean, like, he's as the number 2 hitter, he's going to see as many at bats as anybody in the game, probably more, him and JP. And so when the at bats aren't competitive or he's making outs, a lot of times in critical situations with runners in scoring position, it's a problem, you know. And I think he's slowly starting to learn too that whether he's going good or bad, teams are not going to give into him. So if he got like that pitch last night, that's just a mistake. You know, the guy was trying to throw a sinker low and in, it stays up, inner half, and he kills it. Well, yeah, he's not going to get that very often. Like, I'm sure like the thinking is like, this guy is supremely talented. So if there's one guy that's going to beat us, you know, make sure we don't make mistakes when he's up. And he's got to realize that that's the thing. He is the focal point of every team's like shutting down, you know, when they're having their pregame pitchers meetings, is like, okay, let's not let him beat us. It's like Corey Seager last night. You see how careful Logan Gilbert pitched Corey Seager that first time up? He's like, okay, we're going to, you know, we know who you are. We know what we're going to do. We're not going to let you get going in the first inning by giving you a cookie on the first pitch to see how far you can hit it. We're going to adjust some things. And I think that's what Julio's slowly starting to learn. Part of being a superstar isn't just the commercials and everything else, is you get treated differently when you're at the plate.
I just, you know, again, it's, and I understand like and you brought this up. I mean, he puts so much pressure on himself to deliver, so much. But, you know, when it is going right, God, I just, you know, because I interacted or I had a kind of a situation with the team I coach, my little league team, and that where we have a few players like when they're going good or their attitude is good because they're so popular and they're just infectious personalities, then the rest of the team is great. But the second that those 2 kids kind of go down a little bit, it just brings the entire team down. And he doesn't do that. And he doesn't do that. Like, he doesn't pout or anything, but he just gets super frustrated. And I think it can rub off on other guys. But when he's playing so good and plays with so much passion and energy because things are going great, you know, it's infectious, I think.
Well, I wrote that. And then, of course, somebody emails me and like, oh, yeah, well, I don't see that. Well, yeah, because you don't see it. I write it like, why? I mean, make this shit up? Like, you know, like what you see on the field or what Root shows, which isn't a lot always, isn't what we see, you know, or what we hear or how we see things happen. You know, like, does Julio want to be great for himself on some level? Yes. Yes. I mean, you don't have that competitive ego to be a star. You're not getting there, you know, like there are plenty of talented guys that don't have that work or drive. And that's what drives him, is he wants to be great. But when they are losing and he is playing poorly, he takes it upon himself. He understands, like, better than I think Griffey did, better than a lot of probably Alex, the responsibilities of being the face of the franchise and what it means. He understands that better at 22 than a lot of guys do at 28, 29. Look at Trout in a lot of ways. Like, Trout goes out and plays, but it's not like the responsibilities of being like the face of the franchise, being one of the superstars in baseball. Julio has a better grasp of that. I mean, and and I think it's part of his personality. He grew up in the social media age. He understands all of this. And also he has an affinity because he's a kid. And I hope that he does not lose this. But he has an affinity. Like the one thing is, like, if you watch him, I know you do, because your son is, infatuated with him. But when he's out there pregame and everything like that, who does he focus on? It's not the media. It's not TV cameras. If he sees a kid, he will always stop for a kid more often than not, because he understands, because he was that guy and he understands what's important. So yeah, he has an over, I think sometimes an overhype, not overhype, but just like his sense of responsibility for this organization and its success is probably a little too great. Like, in the sense that, like, it's not all on him. He's not making the roster. He's not doing all this stuff. It's not all on him. So he shouldn't feel that way when they lose, when everybody, especially if he's playing well and everybody else sucks. That doesn't mean he needs to play even better. It means he needs to just stay positive and encourage his teammates. And, and like, they understand. I mean, like, that's one thing about this group. When everybody else was like, ready to jump off the freaking Space Needle because they weren't winning, like, just what, like, it's kind of like the defense. Like, I knew that Josh Rojas would get better at third base because he puts in the work every day, and because Perry Hill's on his ass every day. And if you do it every single day, you can't help but like, if you do something the right way every single day, you can't help to get better. It's like my writing. I've never done it the right way every single day, so it doesn't get any better. It's just the same. But, like, with fielding and stuff, it's like, so, like, I do a lot of hitting lessons and like baseball and fast pitch lessons in the off season.
Okay, I'm gonna bring you out for Fisher Plumbing next time you're in town. You're gonna give a hitting lesson to the boys.
Yeah. And then, like, well, I hope they can handle the curse words. But, like,
that's fine. They need a little tough love. Okay.
But when you're telling kids this, is like, very rarely is it gonna be perfect the first time you make changes. It's never gonna be right. But it's like, if it's consistent in what you're doing and you're doing it what is supposed to be right, eventually it will lead to work. Like, I mean, like, I was working with these 3 girls from the fast pitch team, and at one point, each one of them was crying at a different point, and they're all like freshmen. I was like, I freaked out. I had the old, there's no crying in this cage. I was like, we are not crying. I don't care if you think you suck at softball and this feels weird. And I was like, get out of your comfort zone. We're doing it. And I think that's what, my anecdote aside, but I think that's what people have to realize is, like, these guys have played baseball one way and they're trying to do it. And they hate, like, every one of these guys were they're the best players on their team, most likely.
Yeah.
And so they hate being embarrassed. They hate failing, And so it's like, when they play poorly, you may think, oh yeah, he goes home to, big house or whatever, lots of money. These guys hate being embarrassed because they're not used to that. They hate playing poorly, hate failure, because for much of their life, they were always the best player.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, it's amazing. Because it's
think of the best player you've ever. Think of the best player you've ever played with. They probably weren't a superstar, or played against. I mean, like, I played against Jason Bay when he was 16 years old. I thought, this guy is the best player I've ever seen. But I mean, like, it's not like they're Julio or whatever. It's like when you play, you played hoops with like pro athletes or whatever. They're a different breed of human being. Like that's that whole Dugar, your former producer Chris Kidd, think they can play against NFL players and beat them. One, I've played with Dugar and those guys. You can't. Like, we played with Cliff Averill, and when Cliff Averill decided he was going, this is Cliff Averill with a broken neck.
When they're going to decide
when he decided he was going to the basket and he got pissed off at us, it was over. And like he had a different, like, I went driving through the lane and he hit me and I was in the other court.
It's I mean, I love it. I mean, that's what I love. God, it's great because that's what I love about. It's just not baseball players, Div. It's just athletes in general at this highest level, the 1%ers. Is I wish I had an ounce of it, and I just wish you could bottle it up because all of them, their competitive drive, their dedication to whatever sport they're in, their hatred, I mean, disgust for losing is, I just wish, I wish I could bottle it up and we could give it to everyone. Because there's just some people, and I would raise my hand, that you lose and you kind of like, oh, okay. I wish I had more of that mentality these athletes have, where it wears on them how much when they lose. It just bothers them to their core.
I mean, like, I was trying to think of like players that take it handled. I remember Brendan Ryan. He would just sit there in his uniform and just stare at a locker. Like, they'd lost 17 in a row that one year, and we even kind of apologized because he was the only one around to talk to about it. He's like, no. He goes, this is like my therapy. I gotta talk about it. You guys gotta watch it. I gotta live it.
Yeah.
It's just like most of these guys aren't Anthony Rendon. Okay, they're not Chris Bryant. They don't hate baseball. I don't know that Mechaniker still says his favorite sport to play was football, but look at how he treats it. Like, these guys are. I don't think people understand how they work. And I took my girlfriend's son Tyson to watch how these guys hit in the cages, in the indoor cages, and he has a different appreciation for hitting off of a tee because they all do it, and they do it with like such intensity. He's like, I've never seen anything like this. It's like, well, yeah, but these guys are wired to compete. To get to where they're at, especially the guys that aren't supremely talented. Like, think about all the shit that they have to endure just to get through the minor leagues. You're playing in frickin' Modesto and High Desert, and you're making, like, it's the end of the world. Like, people don't understand like how hard it is to get to the big leagues. That's why it's such, like, I try and tell people, anybody that gets to the big leagues, it's a success. It doesn't, for a team in a development, you draft or sign a player and you get them through your organization, you get them to the big leagues, that's a win. Regardless of what they do beyond that, that's a win.
It's just the time and effort and the everyday nature of the sport, and it's so stat driven. You're looking at your stats and you're like, am I ever going to get a hit? If is anything, it's ever going to happen? And then you talk about the minors, and then Divish, I think of the guys that are, the international guys that come over here and then they don't speak English, and for them, this is it. I mean, this is the way out for like poverty. And the effort these guys put in is, I think more of that needs to come out, and the work they put in. You mentioned, I love the story about the tee. I try to tell, we coach, majority of our kids are 10 and 11, and I'll bring the tee out and these guys will be like, why are we hitting off a tee? And I'm like, you guys get it? Like, this, they professional baseball players hit off a tee like all the time. Like, Mike Trout hits off a tee like all the time. And I'm like, if you guys can't hit this consistently off a tee, how can you hit a pitch that's coming in, super fast at you? You're not going to. Like, just perfect this and you'll be, and then they'll get mad. Like, we'll do like a soft toss, like a, front toss. And they're like, oh, can you just throw it harder? I'm like, I'm just telling you guys, just, you'll be fine. Just make contact. And it's just funny. It's like trying to incorporate all that kind of stuff. Like, these are the little things you got to do to get better.
I mean, we've done that series. I did it, different times during spring training. The one year I followed Nelson Cruz around for an entire day, and I followed Cal Raleigh around last year. And then Jude did the one with Logan Gilbert and all his weirdness and all his things. Nelson took 100 swings off the tee before he even thought about a ball was thrown to him. And then it was front toss. And then it was machine.
Yeah.
I mean, but he had all these different tee placements. And, that's what it's funny now because of the gram. That's what I use to show kids, like, hey, this is what they do, so don't waste this because this is how they do it. And, it's like the Perry Hill stuff every day. They're out on their, the knee where, on the knees, fielding it. It's fundamentals every day. That's why they get better. And that's why this team has gotten better. And that's why guys like Winker, who somehow has found the fountain of youth, they get rid of them because, like, they don't want that. Yeah. They don't want younger guys coming in and saying, well, this guy doesn't do it, so why should I? No, Julio does it. Mitch does it. Everybody does it. France, JP. That's the rule.
What can they just this torrid streak that you just brought up, his name Cal Raleigh is on? Can they just go and lock him up now? Can they put the contract in front of him and say, Sir, please sign it. Just sign the contract, please, for the love of
Do you think
God.
Service has a John Schneider Ranger or Blue Jays manager mask, like the fake mask he puts on? Hey, we're just gonna execute against you tonight. It's okay.
Yeah,
I mean,
probably.
like,
Maybe he dresses up as John
or maybe they
Schneider.
have
Like
that.
that's what he does.
Maybe they have that list of the top 10 catchers in baseball where Cal's not on it. Here, look at
You know what?
this.
Well, yeah, I would do all that stuff.
Because
Just anything
that's the
to
kind of stuff
motivate
that
him.
motivate. Oh, that's the kind of like he takes that slide. You can tell like the way he talked about John Schneider was like there was, and I wouldn't piss Cal off because he's the type of guy. Like one, he's huge, but two, like if you ever got in a fight him, you'd have to kill him to stop him because he would just keep coming at you. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable how good he's been, and he probably should have at least 3 extra guys thrown out at second. They've had some bad kind of tags and other stuff. And like the way he gets those pitchers to do what he wants. I mean, like that was one thing we talked about it, how angry and pissed off he was at Kirby and Luis. You don't think that Cal got in their face and said, if I put my glove down here, that's where you throw it. Especially like George, you can throw it through a Cheerio from 10 miles away. You throw it where I tell you to throw it. I don't want to hear any excuses. And I think it's unreal and it's crazy. And I don't know if they can lock him up. I think they're at the point now where they have a chance to lock him up, but they don't have the. I mean, like I don't know if they have the money to do it right now.
Listen, I know Julio's the most valuable player on the team. I think Cal's the most important. I just do. I think with everything that he does, just all of it. It's the leadership, it's the pitching, it's the offense that comes with it. It's just everything. I just they got to do whatever they can, and it takes two to write the tango. Is the cliche. So he's gonna have to want to stay, and his agent's gonna have to want him to be there. But God Almighty, man, you just cannot let somebody like this. And this is not just a reaction to what he's doing. He's been consistent for the most part his entire time he's come up here. And it's the whole package, right? It's the whole package he delivers for these guys. You just can't let that walk away. Whatever they can do to get Raleigh inked up would be great. Great for the organization. I hope it could happen. I hope he wants to be here for the long term, and maybe they can get something, to him. And I just would love to see him in a Mariner uniform. He's just the type of guy, Davis, that would love to see to be part of a team and an organization for his entire career.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, like they are running up against it. You think about it, like he's going to get expensive next year. Logan's going to be. I mean, we haven't hardly talked about him, but look at what he's doing. I mean, like he's going to double up at least next year. So he's going to be 4.1 million, or what? He's going to be 8 million next year. And then you have Kirby, and you have Bryce will be a Super 2 as well. I mean, like all these guys, it's pretty crazy, and it's a testament. Like Cal, Logan, Bryce, George, they're all draft picks. They're all draft picks that they developed. I mean, JP doesn't get that because they got him young, but like Julio, they signed. That's like they went out and got the players and they've helped build it. So they're gonna have to keep doing that.
Yeah, you mentioned Logan. There's always been this Logan Gilbert camp, right? Or excuse me, Logan and Kirby camp. And Logan has come out this year, and it's just like this internal competition between all these guys and trying to show out who's going to be the best one. And Gilbert just continues to shine. He just was remarkable yesterday, even though he probably noted afterwards he hates all the walks. But even if that's not his A game, it looks like an A game.
I mean, like in a couple of the walks are pretty borderline pitches. He was pissed. Did you see the look on his face when Scott came out to talk to him?
Yeah, not happy.
Oh my! So like we had when we were in. I don't know if I mentioned this on the last one. We were in Milwaukee and they lost, and he pitched well, but they had lost, and we're trying to talk to him, and he was still in Walter mode. It was terrifying. Like I don't ask very good questions. They're mostly general statements. But afterwards, like it was just awkward, and you could both me and Kramer. I talked to Dan Kramer. I was just kind of disarmed at how angry he was, and how because he's not like that. He's the most, and he's really a good talker. I was sitting there. I was like, I didn't ask one good question, which is normal, but like we didn't get any good answers because he was still angry about the game, and I'm like, yeah, I can't even imagine going out to him. Hey, can I have the ball, please? And he's 6'7" guy with big eyes staring down at you, like, no, you can't.
Yeah, it was incredible. Yeah, I just love watching a pitch. I love all these guys. You know how much they compete. You know, on that pitching staff. All right, enjoy Texas. We'll cut you loose. Enjoy Texas for the next few days, and we'll talk to you again on Friday. Again, Ryan's weekly appearance. Well, he does it. It's a bi-weekly appearance, right? Brought to you by Chalet Bowl, Washington's oldest operating bowling alley, established in 1941, located in Tacoma's Proctor District. Family owned and operated for 40 years. The Frederick family and staff specialize in customer service for your bowling, food, and fun experience while out their unique 12-lane facility. Go to chaletbowl.com to make your next reservations. Thanks, Divish. Appreciate it, man.
See you, man.
All right. Again, you can find the Divish episode, YouTube, Apple, Spotify, wherever you find your podcast. As a reminder, please like, subscribe, comment away. Thank you very much. We'll talk to you soon.